In this video, we are going to go through different chart types. So why should we even visualize data to begin with? Data visualization just helps us see information a lot better, okay? When information is presented as millions of rows of data, it is difficult for us humans to process and quickly understand the information the data set holds. But with visual representation, we can quickly interpret the data using our human senses and visual cues. So if you are given this data right here on the left side, it's difficult for you to quickly make out with the different information of cells. But if you are presented the exact same data visually like this, it's easy to see that labels from office supplies has the lowest cells, followed by fasteners, and you can quickly see that phones from the technology category has the highest cells. So you could quickly, easily and visually make out what the data is trying to say, as opposed to having it in tabular form like this. There are times when having tabular data like this is useful, but for the most part, the bar graph is easier to read. So this is why we visualize data, to make it easier for human beings to understand the data. So let's begin by talking about different types of graphs. Let's begin with line charts. So this is a very simple line graph, which is viewing the trend in data over time. An example would be website traffic like this one. So it's very simple. You see this every single day. You see this often. A line graph is one type of graph. And this is a bar graph. Again, a very common type of graph, and it's usually used to compare data across different categories. And any graph that you see in this presentation can be created with Tableau. And this right here is a heat map. Heat maps show the relationship between two factors. So this heat map is showing the relationship between the segment, the category, and profit. So it's basically showing you profit by market segment and the categories. Again, a heat map is a popular type of map that you see earlier, and when you create a heat map in Tableau, this is what the heat map looks like. And this is a highlight table. A highlight table is basically a heat map, but with details and information on it. So as you can see in this highlight table, you can quickly make out the category or the subcategory that has the least profit. So you can see that corporate segment table has the least profit, followed by table in the consumer segment and table in the home office segment. So basically, tables just has the least profit, actually negative profits. We are losing money on tables across all the segments. And then here you can see that phones in the consumer department, in the consumer segment, is making the most profit, followed by copiers. Copiers is making the next profit, and then you have copiers in the corporate department. And so basically a heat map, this information right here is the exact same information right here. And as you can see, like the heat map size kind of represents the same information here. The big size and very dark green. This is a heat map, and this is a highlight table. Same information, but this has a table, but this has information on it. And of course, you can create this in Tableau. And the next graph we are going to look at is a tree map. And basically a tree map is what it sounds like. It's like a tree. The most profitable category has the biggest share of the tree map, and it's the most dark green, right? Followed by the next biggest category and followed by the next biggest category. And the smallest categories, like the category with the smallest profit, occupies the least amount of space and is most light. So that's the basics of how tree maps work, and this is one way to visualize data. And of course you can also create this in Tableau. Then you have Gantt chart, which basically shows the projection of something over time. So planning is from January to March, and research from February to March. Design is from March to April. Implementation is April to July, and then follow up is from June to July. So basically, like a Gantt map looks like a bar graph, but it kind of illustrates a project schedule over time. And this right here is a bullet map, which evaluates the performance of a metric against a goal. So let's say you set a goal to 300, or like about 900 here, 850 right here, or about 23% right here. You kind of measure the performance of everything against a goal. That's what you use a bullet map for. Then you have a scatter plot. A scatter plot just shows the relationship and correlation between two or more things. And of course, a scatter plot is another type of a regular normal plot that you see every day. And then you have a histogram. A histogram really helps you understand the distribution of your data. So if you have a data set that looks like this, it will kind of show you the distribution of your data. With a histogram, you can see if something is right skewed, left skewed, centered, and if it looks like a bell curve, or if it's leaning to one side. So it just kind of shows you how your data is distributed. And then we have symbol maps. So symbol maps is basically a map, but the data point on it is represented with dots. So this is one example of a symbol map, and this map is a map of the world. And this is a map of the United States. And this map right here of the United States is like profit by zip code. And as you can see, each dot represents a zip code, and the bigger the dot, the bigger the profit, and also the darker the dot, the bigger the profit. Like in this situation right here, wherever that zip code is, it's really profitable. And also a city in California is also very profitable. You can see a little bit of a orange big dot right there. And now also Washington, a zip code in Washington is also very profitable. So this is kind of an example of a dot map, of a symbol map. Then we have area maps. So area maps is kind of similar to a symbol map, but they're a little bit different. So right here, these data points are discrete data points, right? Individual data points, zip code discrete. But right here, the data is continuous, right? An area map like this shows you continuous data. A symbol map shows you discrete data. And in this case, this is just profits by state. Just a quick look at this, you see that California is one of the most profitable states. And then you have New York, and you have Washington, you have Texas. So you can kind of see the profitability of each state on this map very quickly. And of course, this is continuous data, and this is data representing This data is for the whole world. Actually, each country has a different color associated with it. So this is an example of an area map, and of course you can create this in Tableau. I actually created these two graphs in Tableau. And then we have box and whisker. They just show the distribution of a set of data. So a box and whisker graph can be difficult to read if you don't know what it is. So I've included an example here of how to read a box and whisker graph. You have your upper extreme, you have your lower extreme, you have your outlier, you have your lower quartile, upper quartile, you have your median, and the same thing right here. So this is the median for this data point. Lower extreme, higher extreme, upper quartile, lower quartile. So that's how you read a box and whisker graph. And of course, you can create this in Tableau. And more about the graphing interface in Tableau. So in Tableau, you have something called quantitative axis, which is an axis that shows the ranges of values for the measure. You have qualitative axis, which is an axis with headers when added to the view. You have marks, which is visual representation of the data. You have labels, which describe the product each mark represents. You have filter, which allows you to view a subset of the data. You have legend, which is what tells you the colors or the shapes for a chart. And then you have tooltips, which give you specific data about what the mark represents. Now, just looking at these words, this may not make any sense. So let me show you what all of this means using a graph as an example. So using this graph as an example, this right here is the qualitative axis, which is an axis with headers when added to the view. So this is the qualitative axis. And then this right here will be the quantitative axis, which is an axis that shows the ranges of values for the measure. So this right here is a quantitative axis. And these bars right here is the mark. So this is the mark. The bar is the mark. So we can change the mark by coming here and let's say choose something like circle. And let's change this back to bar. So this is the mark. And now we can add a label to this. So let's just add profit to the label. As you can see now, the label is profit. So these things right here that I just added, which tells you information about it, is the label. And we can also add cells to the label. So we could see the profit and the cells. And now we can also filter our data. So this is a filter panel right here where we can filter our data. If I want to just view the data for office supplies category, I can just take category and put it in filter. And let's choose just office supplies, apply, and click OK. As you can see now, we are just looking at the data for office supplies. So that's what the filter panel is, which allows us to drill down our data to more subsets. Then we have the legend. So this right here is our legend. And if I remove the filter and things go back to how it was before, as you can see, this thing right here called category is the legend. You have furniture is blue, office supplies is orange, technology is red. And if you click on this button right here, you'll be able to choose if you want to show the legends or not. So that's what the legend is. And then we have two tips. So when you hover over something like this, it gives you information about that particular graph, that particular bar. And it says category furniture, subcategory bookcases, profit 112,000. That's kind of the tooltip. You can add more things to the tooltip. So we can take cells and add it to tooltip. Now when we hover over it, it doesn't just include profit, it tells us the cells. We could take shipping cost and add it to tooltip. And once we hover over something, it doesn't just tell us the profits or the sales, it also tells us the shipping cost. So that's the tooltip. It gives you specific data about what the mark represents. And that's basically it on this video about the different chart types and what the different parts of the graph mean in Tableau. See you on the next video.